Claude just posted a 386% increase in its share of AI-referred website traffic. This is between January and April of this year, and that's not a small uptick. That's actually the fastest growth rate of any AI platform in the data set. Faster than ChatGPT, it's faster than Gemini, faster than Perplexity. And the crazy thing is a lot of this happened within a single month. So in March alone, Claude's referral share went from about 0.0049% all the way up to 0.0127%. And in this article here on Search Engine Journal, SEC Ranking called it the largest single month increase in Claude's history. So let's break down what the data says and what it means, and if this lends any additional credence as to why you need to track Claude pretty heavily as an AI traffic source over the others. Or should you? Should you still track ChatGPT, Gemini? Should you still track them all the same way? I guess that's the real question people have. Let's get into it. So I think the biggest story here, aside from the whole Claude thing, is just AI in general has become a much more realistic traffic source than it was a few months ago. All of the AI platforms are starting to send more and more traffic to websites. And a lot of people in the SEO space and the digital marketing space, they've been watching that channel grow over time. But the leaps and bounds it's taken within the last quarter, let's call it, has been pretty remarkable. And I know in my own experience looking at clients' website traffic, Claude has always been one of the lower tier LLMs as far as driving traffic to a website. It's always been ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Perplexity, Gemini to a degree. Claude has been a little bit of a slow climber, but I myself have noticed quite an uptick in Claude traffic over the last few weeks, especially as they get more and more press coverage. I think that's really the big thing here. Enterprise companies are just learning about Claude's capabilities in much greater detail. And a lot of that's just coming from news articles, news stories, that kind of thing. So let's start with this SE ranking data set, because that's where the core numbers for this video are coming from, essentially. Now, what SE ranking did, first of all, SE ranking is a great tool for measuring traffic to a website, keyword rankings, competitive analysis, that kind of thing. It's very similar to an Ahrefs or an SEMrush. It's a little bit less expensive than those tools, so I highly recommend SE ranking. It's pretty fantastic. But what they did here was they analyzed a pool of Google Analytics data across several websites. They looked at where the AI referral traffic was coming from, and they looked at this over a pretty large window. So this is about a 16-month time frame, which really, when you think back to it, that's kind of when AI began to become measurable, was maybe about 16 to 20 months ago. So it's perfect. Now, across that full period, ChatGPT held about a 78% of all AI referred clicks. Perplexity was second, Gemini was third. So this kind of goes in line with what I've seen as well in AI traffic. And Claude was sitting way at the bottom. You can see down at about 1.4%. So in terms of raw volume, Claude is still relatively small, but the growth rate is where it gets interesting, because from January to April, ChatGPT's AI referral traffic grew only about 1.53%. So the growth has been pretty stagnant for ChatGPT. Gemini grew a lot, it grew about 63%, but Claude grew 386% over the course of that time period. And the March spike is really worth talking about. SE ranking attributes a lot of that to the news cycle, like I was saying. So we know that Anthropic has been very public throughout early 2026 about refusing to let Claude be used for mass surveillance and all this Pentagon-related content that they've put out. And so that announcement got a lot of press coverage, and it got a lot of hits among enterprise-level CEOs who maybe aren't as ensconced into the AI tech space as some of the people on the ground, like you and me. But they started learning about Claude, and they said, oh, wow, who's this company who's causing this disruption? Anytime there's going to be a disruption like that, they're going to learn about it, and the use of that tool is going to skyrocket. So Anthropic saw more than 1 million new signups per day at its peak. According to some coverage, Claude was hitting the top of the App Store charts as well across multiple countries. And so that new wave of users translated into many more referral clicks by March. Now, an AI intelligence report found that Claude's desktop conversations grew by about 1,800% between October 2025 and March 2026. So this reached 22 million desktop conversations in March alone. And then similar web data that was published put Claude's overall web traffic up roughly 5x year over year. So this This puts it from around, let's say, 230 million visits in Q1 2025 to more than a billion in Q1 2026. So just remarkable. And of course, these numbers are well ahead of ChatGPT and Gemini's growth rates within that same time frame. Now, from a regional standpoint, April 2026 saw Claude's referral share in the US. It was about at 0.0186% of total website traffic. Now, in the EU, European Union, it was 0.01%. In the UK, it was only 0.0054%. So the US is running roughly 2 to 3 times ahead of some of those other markets. And SE Ranking's angle on this was that the European and UK trends tend to lag the US by about 10 months. So if that holds, what US sites are seeing now with Claude traffic is only a preview of what some of these other international markets are going to start to see here in a few months. Now, then there's the whole conversion angle of things. We know that AI traffic tends to convert better than your normal 10 blue link Google traffic. That's been pretty well established to this point. Even if it's a smaller share of overall traffic, it's still more conversion focused, conversion friendly. People are more likely to take an action when they click on an AI result. They're a little bit more in that buyer intent mode when they do that. The benchmarks that I've seen that are kind of floating out there put AI referral conversion rates in about that 10 to 16% range compared to maybe 2 to 3% for your typical organic traffic. Now, ChatGPT referrals in particular come in around 15 to 16%. Claude specific numbers, they're a little bit harder to pin down, but the directional signal is still similar. Now, these are high intent visitors, again, who came to a specific page because an AI tool recommended them to it. For niches like B2B, SaaS, and finance, or for anything that really involves a considered purchase or decision making, that seems to matter a lot when the traffic volume is still small, obviously. And I think one more thing to keep in mind here is the overall size of the channel, right? AI traffic is still a very small percentage of total website traffic, only about 0.33% as of April of 2026. I know that number is rising, but it's still relatively small. So we're not talking about AI traffic being the primary channel, the primary traffic driver of all your traffic channels. But the fact that share has roughly doubled from a year earlier and the growth rates across platforms are just skyrocketing, this compounding effect is going to produce some pretty amazing results. And Claude is at the forefront of it, which I think we could see coming. Now, what does this mean for you? How can you apply some of these numbers into your own workflows? Well, the one thing to keep in mind is measuring AI traffic, right? So this is constantly evolving and changing. It used to be that we had to do some sort of a voodoo kind of workaround in Google Analytics in order to specifically segment out AI traffic and show clients. Now, as of May 13th, Google announced they're going to be coming out with an AI assistant traffic measurement. Now, I don't think this has been formally released yet. They did announce that it's coming though. So this will be a much easier way to add that channel grouping into your normal channel group. Now, on the content side, Claude tends to favor well-structured, well-sourced answers, strong headings, clear definitions, good schema to a degree, although schema being used for LLMs is a little bit debatable now. But the point is you want to have a well-structured page that answers the intent of the customers. And ironically, you don't want to use AI content too heavily when you're generating these responses because Google will notice it. All the AI detectors in the world will notice it. And this is becoming really a quick way to get your website penalized by Google. And you just don't want to do it. It's okay to start with AI content. It's okay to structure your outlines with AI content. When it comes to putting pen to paper, have a human writer, have a human editor go in and restructure the page. Use a tool like originality.ai. That's my favorite AI detection tool at the moment. Use that, send it to your editor, have them go through and make it sound less AI sounding. That makes sense. If you do that, you're going to have great results, promise you. So again, tracking AI is super important. But the other point here is don't go all in on the Claude train as far as, oh, we need to get Claude traffic. Claude's still a relatively small percentage. It's increased the most growth-wise, but it's still a relatively small percentage of overall AI traffic. You still need to pay attention to ChatGPT. You still need to pay attention to Gemini. These different LLMs favor different results for different searches, right? Some might favor Foursquare, some might favor Yelp, some might favor Reddit more than others. You have to be cognizant of that when you're trying to optimize client websites. Make sure that you're accounting for all these different variables. So, like always, if you found this content useful, go ahead and please hit the like button. That helps us a lot. Hit the subscribe button as well. That helps us even more. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.